Recording? Oh, the recording. Yeah. All right. Hey, everybody, we're going to do the thing. So this talk is called Reimagining and Redeploying the Digital Ecosystem at RISD. I'm going to talk a little bit about things that we've been up to over the past few years, some of the lessons learned as we did the work that we did. And I think it's I have peers here from Harvard and Yale and UCLA Health, I think, is here. And it's really great that there's been so much good work happening in higher ed. It's been kind of a tough run in higher ed the last few months. For those of you who are in higher ed, maybe I know my semester's been kind of a mess. So if you, there's lots of things that are not in a good place. And I'm excited because today we're here talking about things that are in a good place. And when I think back about how those of us were managing our websites maybe 10 years ago compared to now with some of the design systems and platforms and new things that we've got to really focus on doing work that matters as opposed to just controlling chaos, that makes me excited. And so I'm here to talk about that today. So as I said, I'm Brian Clark. I oversee all of RISD's digital media ecosystem. I get asked, that includes all the strategy and operations for all of our major websites in our Drupal and Pantheon platform. I get asked a lot about our structure. My team is called Digital Experience, and we're 4 full-time employees, and we have a team of wonderful designers and developers at MediaCurrent, and we work with them every day. An interesting thing about our group is that we report both into marketing and communications as well as the IT division. And this allows us to approach our work from a foundation of marketing as well as technology and systems. The reason I'm doing this talk is because our team is in a much different place than we were several years ago. We are in year 3 of creating sites on our Drupal platform with what we call our digital product system, which is the component-based design system that is fully aligned with RISD's new brand identity. We've used this system to completely relaunch our main RISD.edu site, as well as a major student service website, a new financial aid site, and several others, all in a coordinated way. But this is not at all where we started a few years back. At that point, we had close to 100 websites that were all promoting parts of the college. These were on at least 5 different content management systems. This is a list of some of the bigger ones. Like most folks in this situation, we were good at starting sites, but lacked the resources to maintain them in any cohesive or coherent way. This created eventual content chaos, technical complexity, compliance issues, accessibility risks, etc., etc. And perhaps most annoyingly for a design school, everything looked and sounded different, and the overall UX was a mess. So back in 2019, what became known as our ecosystem initiative started with a presentation that I created, and with our CMO, we delivered to our president and the upper administration. We talked about how expectations for RISD are and should be very high. We talked about how RISD's websites attract over 1 million visitors every year, but our digital campus did not in total reflect RISD's standard of quality. And we shared a vision of a digital publishing foundation for the future, one that aligned our people, our processes, our content, and our infrastructure toward a common purpose and with sustainable governance. And once that was proposed, I honestly didn't stop talking about it for well over a year. While we worked on a plan for funding, I took this presentation to every department in the college that had a website and therefore had skin in the game. I shared our strategy for getting campus organized on a common set of tools and a common process, and creating a coherent sense of digital place, and committing to accessibility. And that's 100% what guides our work to this day. So this was lesson number 1. If you're doing this work, you are in the people business. I'll go back to this slide. While our ecosystem in aggregate was ineffective, most of the sites had someone behind it who cared. These folks had goals, they had things to communicate. Some of them were afraid that they would lose the control that they had over their content by buying into a bigger, more institutional system. And so we needed to show how our platform would create value. whether that's publishing agility, brand standardization, accessibility, or just by saving departments money. These were going to be our future collaborators, and we wanted them to feel that we'd spent the time to hear and synthesize their concerns, and we were coming back with something that was a response. So that way, when it was time to start asking people to participate in a new CMS platform, we already had them on our team. Another thing that happened, and it was a fortunate bit of timing, was while we were selling our vision, RISD was in a strategic plan phase. And this helped us secure funding, and we even got the project written into the strategic plan to, quote, transform RISD's websites and other digital functions into a strategically consistent, intentional, and audience-focused ecosystem. This allowed us to do a 4-month exhaustive study of all of the content that was being published and to consider some new organizing principles. We eventually landed on a user-focused architecture that's still guiding our approach. And this is an example from some of the decks at that time. Then COVID happened, and we were forced to put everything on pause for a couple of years. But we got going again in 2022. Which is also the year that my colleagues in Marcom were developing a new brand identity framework for RISD. So these are some of the outputs of the work that went into the brand identity process. Meanwhile, my team was working with MediaCurrent to design and build a common set of modular components for Layout Builder that could be combined to deliver all manner of content. And then we aligned our templates and components with RISD's new visual identity, and our digital product system was born. We initially built our front end in Pattern Lab, though it's now almost completely converted to Storybook. And all of the components comprise a set of layout builder blocks that are available for every site that we spin up. And that was where lesson number 2 came in. Before you design a component-based design system, audit all your content. Define your content types, and then go back and do it all a second time. We spent months and months developing our system, and we still missed some fairly basic content scenarios. Figma makes it easy to do comps, and I recommend making comps for as many pages as you can before you start development. It will help you stress test each component individually, as well as in groups. And it's not just about how beautiful it all looks, though that's part of it, but it's also about whether your real-world content actually fits in these components when you start to bring it in. Much easier to figure out that it's not working in Figma than to have to fix it down the line. Anyway, we got things figured out, and using the components and tools of our new digital system, we were able to build and relaunch the main RISD.edu site in 2023. And we followed that up in relatively short order with our Student Hub, which connects students to resources, offices, and services. Many of the older siloed departmental websites that were on that original list were consolidated, kind of re-architected, and subsumed into the Student Hub as subsites of this overall destination. We then train the people on campus who are working in these sites to learn how to use Drupal and manage the sites here. Last year we launched a new searchable courses browser which integrates course data from Workday Student, and a few other sites that have come up recently. And really the way we've been able to do this is by developing a rigorous product management approach. Alex from Harvard this morning did a great presentation this morning about building a culture of iterating versus completely blowing things up and redesigning, and that's definitely us. We push code often. We're always looking for something to fix. We're looking for something to update. We found that with a regular production and development cadence, we're just amazed at how gradually we're able to get control over bugs, catch up on the backlog, optimize components, and consistently add new features to our platform or our sites. If you do this, you'll be amazed at how adaptable you can become to respond to whatever comes your way. This is how we grow and evolve the ecosystem over time without having to start over with any massive redesign efforts. This is the Jira board that guides our work. So you can see that we have a number of different work efforts happening. We work in 2-week sprints with our team at MediaCurrent. This is where we fix bugs, we deploy new components or features, we We maintain our data integrations. We're in the process of right now of migrating all of our sites to Pantheon, so that's been taking over our sprints this last month or so. But I expect the end result of that will make this workflow even more efficient. And the discipline is true of our content operations as well. When our content team is not actively working in Layout Builder to build experiences, they're publishing tutorials, they're training new Drupal users, they're working in Site Improve, and they're meeting with partners across campus to discuss new ideas or how to make existing content better for our intended audiences. Oops, I got out of whack here. Yep. All these habits this year enabled us to work together to test and introduce a new on-site search experience. And this lets users search all across our Drupal sites and filter by content type. So this is something that we spun up kind of in a bare bones way, and we've been testing slowly with different users across campus. And that's helped us learn which aspects of the filtering and the design, the visuals, the general UI have been successful and which haven't. And we've sort of iterated in different waves before we actually put it live. Elliot knows because it's gone on for a couple of months. But it's been fun. And it's been, being on top of some of the regular things in our workflow has given us the space to be able to, as a team with the agency, really focus and be able to kind of work on this in a consolidated way. And that's where we are. We continue to methodically work through and migrate the sites that remain outside the platform. And we're growing a network of Drupal users across campus, which has created a community around our ecosystem. It's a long game that we're playing with our website ecosystem, but every small win matters. We celebrate these wins, and we keep on building on them. So I'm going to leave this slide here, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you. How many folks are in higher ed? Is there? Yeah. Is anyone doing are you doing any kind of site consolidation work or design system work? Yeah.
Thinking of starting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was curious, like you said you had 100 plus sites.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have that number? Or are you consolidating?
Yeah, we're down to, I've been thinking about I should have had a slide where like the ones we've kind of got to are like crossed out, right? We're probably down to maybe 40 that are left, and most of them are in the academic side. We've been really focused since we brought the system up. We've been predominantly focused on student service. A lot of this had to do with other efforts that were happening in the college to support things like student wellness. So it just made sense that we were kind of operating in that space and working with the administrative offices to make sure that information was as well presented as it could be. We're going to start with the academic side probably next year. Yeah. So most of the kind of one-off sites that are for some of the individual departments, those are the remaining ones. Georgie?
You mentioned that you did a lot of outreach, which I think makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like you had like a ton of meetings and a ton of getting people on board before you started doing the things that were like part of it. But so that makes a lot of sense. But going forward, if there's people who are like, we'd like a site, or kind of want new things, what's the process for managing new requests that are coming in? Yeah.
So the way we do it is, and I spent probably the better part of 2019 just kind of doing the sell through to get people ready, and I found that at first there was some resistance because it was kind of like, well, we understand what you're saying, but we've had our site a long time. We like the independence. I'm not sure what you're offering here. There's some suspicion, and we're in a place now where I think we've worked through that, and there's generally trust, and there's a sense of like, we will support you. We're definitely kind of a hybrid model. You'll hear from Yale later, and then it's much more of kind of a self-serve model that they've built. It's very smart. They have like a million sites. So we definitely help kind of work with you when you're coming into our site. We're into our platform with your site. We walk you through the whole process. So we're very hands-on in terms of helping kind of, help people understand how we might be changing their information architecture, how we might be advising about their content, and then training them as we bring them in, right? But what was the second part of your question? Just in terms of.
Yeah, like, so like if there's new requests, like people are like,
Yeah, new requests.
We'd like a site, or we want to do this, or can we have this? How are you now, like, are you building off of, like, is there like a culture of trust that's expanded so that people kind of know what you do and know that it's cool, or like, or if you have a process for managing people who are like, we would like a thing, we don't want a microsite.
Right, yeah. So I think having worked with so many groups now to bring them in, it's sort of established this culture, and we keep up with them, and our content producers are always kind of meeting with folks to talk them through where they might be having pain points or misunderstanding something, or give them just a chance to talk about whether it's successful or whether there's new challenges that they're running into. And that, what it does is it kind of feeds our roadmap. And so as we come up with new ideas for optimizations that we might want to make, say, to a component, or for a new feature, or maybe a different type of page template or something that's coming up, we sort of bring those all back. Basically, it comes back in, we think about them, we schedule them, and then we usually kind of parse it out with MediaCurrent, like what we're going to work on and actually develop. For the most part, there haven't been a lot of wild requests. I have found that for the most part, people understand and I think that's just from having sold it through and then kind of stayed with it in a consistent way. People have started to understand, like, this is kind of how it works, this is what we get. And so a lot of people are just like, when's my turn? So it's less that they want something unique, it's more just about where am I in line, because we can only manage so many at a time.
And maybe you said this to myself, but do you have an intranet experience as well, or do you have something that's, you can sort of push folks to say, well, the only audience is faculty for that,
right,
so put it over there, or is it, you don't have that experience?
Yeah, it's funny. So we have this site called info.risd.edu, and it was started, when I came in years ago, there was an intranet. It was on this like archaic technology, and we brought it down, but we needed some places to park just really basic insider information. Honestly, at the time, there was this sense that there was nowhere you could just go to get someone's phone number. Like it was, it was that, so everything was that spread out. So info was created to kind of be basic directory, and then what happened was it became sort of the place for dropping some of that information. And so we have these kind of directory pages that have a lot of inside information, and we're in the process right now, actually this summer, of figuring out how to kind of take that and how to move that content into a more appropriate home. But that's where it lives now, and that's been pretty much neat. If there's no other obvious answer, it's ended up there. Rob?
What's your policy around like analytics and KPIs? Like every month, do you have to give Campus Life a report, or do you just expect Campus Life to go and like find the metrics?
Yeah, we generally in our meeting, the way it works is we do it as a kind of practice in our team. We'll look at things. And usually what we'll do is we'll take it to our partners if there's something interesting to start a discussion about, right? We don't just sort of drop reports on them, because most likely they're not going to look at them and it's just kind of a wasted effort. So what we'll do is we'll look for things that maybe, are kind of either interesting or abnormal, and sort of use that as maybe a moment to say like, hey, did you see this? Like, this is interesting, especially since we started with, we're using Search Stacks as the platform for the search change that I had up there. And that's got pretty robust analytics especially about things like unfulfilled searches. So we've noticed a bunch of keywords that we would never have expected. So that's given us kind of an opportunity to do that with the relevant groups.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah.
Do other groups tend to ask for any custom components? How do you handle those types of requests?
The question is, do other groups ask for custom components? It hasn't happened a lot so far. I like to think it's because we came out of the gate with a robust enough set that the basic need, and then we noticed we missed some things, so then we went back and did them, and we've been refining them. So it's less that there's been, I think, some, they don't come out of nowhere. Usually what happens is when we're working on something that has kind of a new, unique reason for living, that will often drive the need for like a new component. So when we were building a searchable, course browser, what we found was we didn't really have a good mechanism for displaying the courses and searching them, so then we created one for that. But there haven't been kind of really out of left field requests for anything.
So
If they did, I think, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask if your components already are pretty simple, so that they're flexible, or
Yeah.
have very content specific.
Well, it's, they are content specific, but we try to make them, fortunately we only have the one platform, so we're not trying to adapt them for multiple things.
Yeah.
We try to give them enough variations that they can hold a few different versions without making it too complex. Versions of, sometimes you need a headline, sometimes you need a subheadline, sometimes you don't need the subheadline, that kind of thing. So that's usually, kind of how we go to.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Margaret.
Hi. So I've found in many organizations when they go off and do their own thing, like making their own microsite or website or whatever, it's because the central organization, the marketing team, is too slow, or they're trying to
Yep.
force us into templates or whatever. Have you, in rolling this out, have you had to look at and change anything culturally in your own office?
Yes, but we were doing that, I think, as in preparation, right? So at the same time that we were going out and kind of preparing campus, because we were getting all of that, right? We were getting those questions of, well, you guys, does this mean you're doing our site for us and we ask you if we need to change things, or, are you going to force there was definitely resistance to the new brand at first from some of the areas. That felt restrictive. So there was definitely a lot of work externally in that first year to kind of change people's minds about, adopting the platform. Now it's less that we have to do with the folks who've been around for a while. It's more just as people come in. As people come in from other colleges, they've either been in a place where there's something like this already and they understand it, or they've been in a place where they had their own thing, and then we kind of have to we have to have the discussion again, and that's good. That's part of the work. In terms of ourselves, I think what happened was, as we knew, we had two big efforts going on. We had the whole web effort, and we had the brand and visual identity effort going on. In both of those cases, it required us as the marketing communications area to really look at how our team was structured and how the roles were set up so that we could fulfill the work that we were kind of setting out to do. Does that answer? Okay. One more, and then I think we got to stop.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of times media current.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about roles and responsibilities and how you divide work and what you assign to them?
Yeah.
Do they interface with your internal customers or just with your group?
Sometimes. Yeah, so what we have no internal, right now I don't have an internal designer. We don't have any internal development resources. So we just look at them as an extension of us. And so in a lot of cases, we'll bring in our partners and say, hey, we're going to have a planning meeting with Media Current. And yeah, that happens a lot, actually.
So you've got some media current resources that are essentially embedded in your team?
Yeah, we're kind of on a retainer model, so we have a certain percentage of certain folks there paid for month over month.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Thank you.